What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. I'm going to break down some big news involving the economic calendar and some big news involving what's going on with Tesla's relationship with Geico and their employees. But just note that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 more, and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon, in just about 3 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So, looking at Tesla, we have this little weaker structure that's kind of developing here, which could lead to a little bit more downside. We have this gap to fill down here as well. However, I'm not entirely convinced that Tesla has to tank or has to crash or do anything like that, despite the head and shoulders that could be forming. So, even if we do dip a little bit, it does not mean we're going to be tanking forever. It doesn't mean Tesla has to crash because the big catalyst is going to be their very, very notorious robotaxi event. That's going to be very key for the way they end up moving. So I want to talk about the news right now. I'm going to break down what's happening with the charts. Just note that we have the Nvda AI Summit that's going on right now. This is very, very cool. This is why stocks like Nvda and many chips are doing quite well. So very, very interesting stuff. Can't wait to see what they end up announcing for their new products. Besides that, we have a couple of Fed speakers, but nothing else that's too crazy, at least for tomorrow. Also, for today, it's the same thing, just a bunch of Fed speakers. So, if you're looking at some data for if you're holding anything overnight, there's not really anything that's too crazy that's going to affect us. So, the market should be fine even overnight. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla has lost their vehicle program manager behind the Model S, X, Cybertruck, and more. So there's a little bit more negative news that's coming out, but this isn't necessarily new because David Zhang, he was a chemical engineer with a background in business analysis who basically joined Tesla back in 2015. He led business operations and he was doing an absolutely incredible job. However, he hasn't really been at Tesla since July. It wasn't until very recently when he announced that he's leaving. So he just announced it very, very recently. He did thank Tesla and he gave a very belated farewell. So I just wanted to wish the best for Mr. Zhang. I think he did a great job of leading Tesla's projects, but at the end of the day, his time has come and he's going to be working elsewhere. So that's something very important I just want to mention. He's done an amazing job contributing a lot to Tesla's new models. And as far as things will now, continue, I just wish for the best for him as he, enters a new chapter in his life. So that's something that's worth mentioning. The media is kind of screaming about that. So it's a little bit more negative. There's also this news coming out right over here about how Geico is terminating insurance coverage for the Tesla Cybertrucks, saying that this type of vehicle, doesn't meet their underwriting guidelines, unfortunately. So it's a little bit more negative. They're the second largest vehicle insurance underwriter in the United States. So if they're not going to be covering Cybertrucks, Tesla's going to have to find an alternative. So that's what the news is kind of going on about. Not the best of news for Tesla so far, but it doesn't necessarily cover or mean that every single Tesla is just not going to be covered. It's just a Cybertruck for the time being. So we'll see what kind of alternatives Tesla comes up with. But for now, like I said before, this is what's making a lot of headlines. Now, besides all the negative news, right, we do have good news. There's been a lot of talk about a Model 2 unveiling, and there's been a lot of talk about how this is going to be a very, very big catalyst. We could be looking for new products, new models that could be announced. I'm seeing a lot of talk about that, especially from Gene Munster, about how Tesla could be unveiling 3 new models, including a Cybervan, a Cybercab, or a Robotaxi, not to mention the Model 2. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. With the Robotaxi, many people are seeing a potential prototype that's going to be coming out. The Model 2 is also going to be expected to be the $25,000 EV. So that's going to be a lot more affordable. Very, very big winner in China. And the Cybervan could also be very similar to the Roadster, but the van is going to be designed for about 8 to 10 people. So that could be announced as well. So I think these products could be very big for Tesla, and I can't wait to see what else its future holds. So what's my view for the time being? We're looking at 244 as our first support. If that fails us, we're looking for 242 as a minor support and strongest support closer to 240. So we'll see if 244 holds. If not, we could come down to fill this gap. So we'll see how well it does there. We have resistance to watch for at 247 and 250. There is a risk of this dipping a little bit more, though, as we have this gap to fill. And there's also this head and shoulders. Excuse me. So we'll see if Tesla continues to decline a little bit more. I will turn a little bit more bearish if 238 fails us. If that fails us, we could be dumping to 230 before it tries to bounce. But like I said before, like even if we do start dipping closer to like 240 flats, if we don't hold 244, I'm not worried whatsoever. I still think that the main catalyst is going to be their Cybertruck event. Sorry, not the Cybertruck, the Robotaxi event, and whatever they announce is going to be very, very big. So I'm not really concerned. I would say that I'm just going to be very patient with how this is going to go. Even if Tesla dips a bit, it could try to rebound closer to the Robotaxi event, but then make sure you watch those key supports. For SPY, we have 570.26 as support. We have resistance at 572. We've been very choppy all day, going back and forth and back and forth. I'm not saying much on SPY, but as long as we don't lose 570, I think we could technically try to get back up to fill this gap to the 572s. But besides that, there's not really much that's going on. We're just range bound for the most part, may continue to just consolidate. Nvidia is pumping very nicely up 3% as we are approaching the AI summit, like we were talking about. Once again, guys, this could be approaching that 130 resistance all the way up here. So it still looks more bullish, outperforming the market. Bitcoin's already trying to pump right now. We'll have to see if we can break 64,000. If that breaks, we're looking for a bigger push for 65,000 plus. For NQ, we look a little bit more bullish. As long as we hold 20,000 flat, this could attempt to get back up to about 20,200, and eventually closer to 20,300. So there is more upside potential in this to get past 20,200 as long as we hold 20,000 flat. For the QQQ, we look more bullish. As long as we don't lose 484, I think the odds favor is trying to push to fill this gap to 487. So I see potential in this chart, so watch it very carefully. We will see how things end up progressing from here. For Apple, Apple's attempting to rebound. We might push a little bit on Apple to about 226. So it might try to fill this gap all the way up there in the 226s. Might see a little bit of a push slowly. As long as we don't lose 222, we do have potential to try to push higher. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For the IWM, we're dipping a little bit. So this is struggling to hold 218. So that opens the doors for 216 if we can't get back above 218. If we reclaim it, we could be looking for the gap fill closer to 220. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For Coinbase, we're stuck in the middle. If we lose 169, we could be dipping all the way down towards the 166 area. If we hold this, we could attempt to rebound. We're back above 170. As long as we hold that, we could attempt to rebound with Bitcoin. We could be looking for an attempt to get back up to 174. Amazon's dipping a little bit. We got some bearish news, guys. I was talking about this in the morning. Bad news came out for Amazon about how they got a downgrade. So because of that, there's kind of like a head and shoulders like structure. It looks a little bit more bearish. If we can't hold 180, I'm looking for a dump down to 177 to 178. If we get back above 183, we could try to bounce. So I think we could get closer to the 180 area. It looks a little bit more bearish, but we'll see if that holds. We touched 600. This is the resistance we talked about on Meta. If we don't hold above 600, we're looking for a dip back down to about the 590 area. So be very mindful of that. Microsoft is just shuffling around 414. If it does not hold, we're looking for 410. If it does hold, we could get back up to 420, but I think we're just shuffling for now. And Google could reject. We're looking for 167 to support that bezel. We're looking for 165. So we'll see how things go. With that being said, guys, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. As of right now, Tesla's looking a little bit more bearish, a little bit weaker, but it's not the end of the world. Tesla could make a big comeback once we have the very, very big robotaxi event. So I can't wait to see what happens. We'll see if this is a slant head and shoulders or not. We'll see if 244 holds. If it does not hold, we have that gap to fill closer to 240. It's still a possibility. But don't worry, guys. Even though we've gotten a lot of bad news about their employees and also with the alternative pieces of news with Geico, it's not the end of the world. Tesla will be fine. So just be very patient. I thank you for listening. We'll see how things progress as we get closer to the Robotaxi event. For now, Tesla's a little bit weak, could dip a little bit more, but we should be looking for a bounce as we get closer to the Robotaxi event. All right. Until then, have a great day and peace out.